Hi, my name is Jonah Jonathan and welcome once again to the Jazz Musician's Voice. Today I've had the wonderful opportunity to do a Skype interview with Bret Primack, aka Jazz Video Guy, really one of the true veterans of this music. Bret Primack has been at the forefront of jazz video since the advent of the internet in the 1990s. And he's got a really great channel. He's got close to 30 million views and over 70,000 subscribers. And he's really somebody that cares about this music. And we talked a little about his life and who he's worked with. And we were also able to talk about his time in Tucson, Arizona, where he resides now. And he's just a great person to know. And I hope you enjoy this interview. Please subscribe and stay tuned. Check out Bret's channel, Jazz Video Guy. And we got more videos coming, so keep watching. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm here to do a Skype interview with a true jazz cat and legend in the jazz video scene now, in this genre of music. Bret Primack, aka Jazz Video Guy.
Hello.
And so I want to preface this to saying an early happy birthday to you. 70 years old.
Oh my God, I can't believe it, John. I can't believe it.
Well, so what, 49, right? That's it.
1940, I was born in the last century.
Well, you're still, I guess at that time you were born, and there's still a lot of bebop going on,
Here's something interesting. Before I was born, my parents, 2 months before I was born, they took a trip to New York. They went to Birdland. They saw Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie. So while I was in the womb, I saw Bird. I felt Bird.
Yeah, you must have felt that, I know with my son, I had some belly buds to play music while he was in the womb, But so let's talk about your early beginnings. So you're from West Hartford, right?
That is true.
So what was your early exposure there to music?
Well, my dad was a musician. My dad was a piano player. During World War II, he led a USO band in Europe and in the UK, and he backed up Bob Hope. But when he came back, he hated the music business, so he just played on weekends. But there was music in my household, and when I was like 5 or 6, I think I saw Louis Armstrong on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that blew my mind. I really liked that a lot. And when I was like a kid in elementary school, there was a very strong music education program in schools. So I started playing the trumpet when I was in 4th grade, and I just began to get into jazz. And then when I was in high school, Duke Ellington came to my high school. Count Basie played a gig that I got to see. The place where I lived in Connecticut, it was like a halfway point between New York and Boston. So musicians would go up to Boston to play gigs, and on Sunday night, they would come through Hartford and they'd work a gig in Hartford. So by the time I was 15, I had seen Duke, Basie, Stan Kenton, Maynard Ferguson, Cannonball Adderley, a lot of stuff, So by the time I was Dizzy, by the time I was 15, I was seriously into jazz. And then when I was 16, my parents let me take the train by myself to New York. So I would go to Sunday matinees at the Village Vanguard. And then finally moved to New York to go to college. I went to NYU Film School. Interestingly, I was into jazz, but also in high school, I got into film. And I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I moved to New York, went to NYU Film School, and that's how it all began.
Wow. So, and you you played trumpet, right? Or you played an instrument?
I played, Jonah. I wish that my dad didn't want me to be a musician because he hated the music business, which I can understand. So he never like made me practice. So I was never a very good musician. It was fun, but as you know, an instrument like the trumpet, you got to practice.
Yeah.
And I didn't. So I played for a while, but after college, when I was working and doing industrial and documentary films, I was hanging out at the Vanguard in the kitchen all the time, and I got to know many musicians. And I became very good friends with a pianist named Walter Bishop Jr., who played with Bird. And he asked me to do an interview with him. He said, "No one's done an interview with me in 20 years. I said, "Okay." I sent it into Downbeat. Next thing I know, I'm a music journalist. And then for the next 30 years, I published hundreds of articles and liner notes, and that was good. It was fun.
Yeah, so I mean, that must have been an interesting time, to be in New York too. I mean, you have Vietnam going on, and you avoided the draft, obviously.
I was very lucky. I avoided the draft, but I was in demonstrations. I didn't get beaten up by the cops, but I got chased down the street a couple of times by policemen on horseback. It was a very interesting era, very exciting era. I was also into rock music at the time. I used to go to the Fillmore East. I saw Hendrix and all the great bands. And that's where I saw Miles for the first time in 1969. And then I was at the infamous Miles at Fillmore gig. I'll never forget that, with Keith Jarrett was on one side of the stage, Chick Corea was on the other. That was kind of mind-boggling. And then, of course, I used to take a lot of LSD and acid in those days. And I had one infamous night when I was on LSD. I saw at the Cafe A Go-Go, I saw the Miles Band with Gary Bartz and Keith Jarrett and Michael Henderson and Jack. That was unbelievable. They were on a double bill with Richard Pryor. And then we went over to the Vanguard, and that was the debut of Chick's band Circle with Dave Holland and Anthony Braxton and Barry Alcho. So I heard a lot of fantastic music in those years. I mean, it was a really exciting time. And it was the jazz fusion thing, as they called it, was just percolating. That was happening. That was the beginning of the loft scene. Sam Rivers had his loft. I used to go down there a lot. Joe Lee Wilson was down the block. Rashid Ali, Ali's Alley. But the older guys were still around. I got to know Joe Jones and Wilbur Ware and, just hanging out. All these guys were there. And so I would say late 60s, early 70s, that was a fantastic time to be in New York and everything that was happening musically, culturally, whatever.
Yeah. Well, what about Woodstock? Did you get a chance?
I went to Woodstock. I had shoulder-length hair. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary in a couple of weeks. Wow. There were good times. Of course, I like technology now. I mean, when I went to NYU Film School, no one told me that, someday you'll be making feature films with this and posting it on the internet. Everybody in the world's going to watch it. Wow. So, I've been lucky. I've ridden the wave of technology. I got one of the first Apple II computers. I've been into technology since the beginning. And then I worked on the first major jazz website, Jazz Central Station, at the beginning of the internet in 94. So I've been present historically at some of the most interesting cultural times in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so you're working as a filmmaker at that time, like, right when you finished film school. And I know you worked some other jobs too. You worked as a cab driver for a while.
I was a cab driver when I went to college, off and on. And then when I got it, I was lucky. I worked in documentaries and industrials, and then I worked on a talk show in New York. That was an interesting experience. And then I got into the writing thing. And I stopped making films for a while because I was doing a lot of writing. In addition to journalism, I also was into plays. I wrote 7 plays. I co-founded a theater company. We did a fantastic off-Broadway play in '79 called Bebop with Walter Davis Jr. and Gary Bartz. That was fantastic. Didn't take off, but it was great. So, the music thing, and then the internet came along. I got pulled into that. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up moving out to Tucson, started doing websites for people, Sonny Rollins and Joe Lovano and Denny's Island. And that's when and then in 2004, that's when I got back into filmmaking. And in 2006 was the Jazz Video Guy, and boom.
Well, yeah, at the time of like you said, you were along with technology. So when the internet came about, you're founding the first jazz website. And then, you have some great things you shot in New York, like at Birdland, the Saxophone Summit with.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great gig. I was working for a startup based in London. It's called Global Music Network in 98, 99, 2000, 2001. Unfortunately, they were way ahead of the curve. No one had broadband. But we went around the world. We did shot these videos, and we did some of the first live webcasts from Birdland. We did the Saxophone Summit with Brecker, Lovano, and Liebman. And we did Dave Brubeck Quartet Live. So that was great. So I've been lucky to, be at the beginning of some of these things.
Yeah, and then, the advent of YouTube came around, and cheap camera gear and computers.
Yeah.
So at the time when you became Jazz Video Guy, what was your real process for meeting some of these guys and getting interviews? Like, I know you had one with Joe Henderson, and you got all these interviews at a time when some of those early guys were just beginning to die. So
yeah. Well, in the '90s, I finally got it was then the technology, a high 8 camcorder. So I just started bringing that. I mean, I did Joe Henderson, Maynard Ferguson, bunch of people. But really, 2004, that's when I really exclusively video. I mean, I just started. I was doing websites. So I started with the people I was doing websites with, and I started posting on YouTube, and then it just kind of took off because at that point, I was really the first one in that space. I was the first one to really post jazz video content on YouTube. In the beginning, I was posting 3 to 5 videos a week. And also, there was a music business then. There were record labels, and they were hiring me to do promotional videos. So I was going back and forth to New York. So I did many, many, many videos. And Concord Records, I did a lot of stuff for them. But then 2012, 2013, the thing kind of came apart because streaming jumped in, people stopped buying music, the record labels went down, and it evolved into something else.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I was getting started in 2011. I was already seeing that same thing happen. Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you have some masters that you really worked with. You have Sonny Rollins, and you have Jimmy Heath. What was your relationship with some of those masters? And you did extensive work with both of those guys.
Well, I met them. I met both of them back in the late 70s when I was writing for Downbeat. I did a cover story about Sonny Rollins for Downbeat in 1978. And I went up to his place. He was living in Germantown, New York. And we clicked. We became really good friends, and we stayed in touch. And then when I began the jazz video, when I started doing websites, I worked with him, and then he was part of the Jazz Video Guy from the beginning. So I just started doing a lot of videos with him. Jimmy Heath, I also met. I did a story for Downbeat, also in '78 with Jimmy and his brother Percy. And we became like really good friends, and we stayed in touch over the years. And 9 years ago, there's a very, very, very good high school jazz education program here, Tucson Jazz Institute. So Jimmy came out here and he did a master class, and then he came back. I ended up shooting a video with him, like a feature-length video about him, an elder, a master, working with young musicians. So that was fantastic. And we're still really good friends. Jimmy and his wife Mona are just wonderful people. Jimmy's going to be 93. Ooh, that's incredible. And then now Billy Taylor, someone else I work with. When I was a kid growing up, I would listen to Billy Taylor on the radio. When I was like a teenager, he was one of my first sources of information about jazz, because he had a show on AM radio on WNEW every Saturday or Sunday, and I would take my radio, I would move it around the house to, get the signal, and he was like a really cool guy. He was like an entryway for me into jazz. Then when I got to New York, I became friends with someone who was Clark Terry's protege. So I met Clark Terry, I became friends with Clark Terry, and then through him I met Billy Taylor. And I wrote about him, and then Billy Taylor's attorney called me, I guess it was around, 1997, 1998. Would you be interested in, doing Billy's website? And then, for 10 years until Billy passed, I became very close to Billy. Used to go to his place all the time in Riverdale, and his lovely wife, Teddy. Billy was a remarkable man. As a teacher, as a player, kind of underrated as a player because of all his work as a broadcaster on CBS Sunday Morning and on the radio. But Billy was a fantastic piano player. So we did a lot of videos together. And then he gave me a lot of videos, a lot of stuff that he shot, that was shot for him at the Kennedy Center. I ended up posting a lot of that stuff. So the older guys, my work with them came from relationships beforehand. As I became more recognized as a jazz video guy, I started to meet a lot of other people, and then just started doing a lot of stuff. But I moved to Tucson in 2001 for a variety of reasons. In some ways that's been great, in some ways that hasn't been great, because this is not exactly a center of jazz.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're out in in the desert, man.
I mean, it's kind of like it's like a college town. There's some good musicians here, maybe one on each instrument. So my thing became, well, going to New York or going to LA. And a friend of mine, Bob Mintzer, he moved to LA about 15 years ago. So I started doing stuff with him, going out to LA. He runs the jazz department at USC. And I did a lot of stuff with him and his big band and his groups and other stuff. But that work is kind of tapered off, only because people can't afford to hire me. And I am so far away from where it's happening that it's harder to do. That said, I do a lot of stuff on Skype now. Earlier this year, when Ira Gitler died, I was a friend of mine, and I wanted to do something. So I ended up interviewing a lot of people on Skype, and I put together a film from that. But I don't like doing that. I prefer to be there.
Yeah, it's a different thing, Skype.
I mean, it's okay for what it is, but I prefer to be there. And also, since I moved to Tucson, I've become much more involved with political issues. border issues, immigration issues. So I've done films about that lately, and I've also done some teaching. I just finished up 5 years teaching at a community college here. So that, you know, I do an occasional jazz project. I have some archive stuff that I post, but right now I'm working on a film about anti-Semitism, and I'm trying to do stuff that in these times, these crazy times that we live in, I think is important. Issues that are important to me, and I want to use my creativity to share the ideas that I have about these issues.
Well, you know, that's really great. Talk a little bit about your equipment set up for us, like all the stuff you film. Do you have it archived on hard drives and all that, or stored? Or
I wish I had everything that I filmed. The problem is, you know, I've learned the hard way that hard drives fail.
Yep.
And that you really need to replace your hard drives every 5 or 6 years, and you need to back up your stuff. Luckily, all my stuff's on YouTube, or most of it, and Vimeo, so I can grab it from there. And some stuff I have, you know, when I started out, I had like a crummy little camcorder, but then I got in 2007, I got at that time, it was a Canon X1 something, I forgot. It was one of the first high def cameras. It was a really good camera. And I got like really good microphones and really good lights. And I used that for a while. And then in, I guess, 2011, 2012, I got a DSLR. And I started shooting with a DSLR. And then, which I have a different DSLR now. Still have a Canon DSLR. And then as the iPhones got better, I started, you know, using an iPhone. So now I shoot with an iPhone 7 Plus and with a Canon DSLR. And then sometimes, depending on the project, I'll use a RED camera. Some people I know have the equipment. I know other filmmakers here in Tucson. So I borrow equipment and I do that. And then I have really good mics and lights and everything that I need.
Yeah, you know, the technology is moving fast. Now we're getting into 4K and 8K, you know. It's coming fairly quickly, you know. Before a while ago it was the 4K, and now the 4K is as cheap as some of the, you know, 720 before, and so that's coming. But yeah, I mean, it's great we have this stuff. Hopefully YouTube will keep and last, you know. I know I've heard horror stories of people losing their YouTube channels and stuff. But yeah, the hard drives, I totally understand. I lost some stuff on hard drives before.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about 4K, it takes up a lot of space.
Yep.
I mean, you know, you need to, you want to preserve stuff now. You need terabytes. So, you know, I'm still every year or so, I'm always buying new hard drives, but that's okay. The price of hard drives, I prefer SSD drives now. I mean, they're so much faster.
Oh yeah, I have one of those on my Mac and they work well. But yeah, I mean, the technology is there. The thing that we won't have in the future is some of these musicians from that era. They are passing, and we won't get them back again. So both of us are on that mission, kind of documenting those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sadly, a lot of them are leaving, but it's up to us to interview them, get them on the record.
Absolutely. So a couple other aspects of your life. You travel out to Taiwan frequently to visit your daughter, right?
I wouldn't say frequently. I've been there. She's been there since 2008. I've been there 4 times. I love to go there. I love Asia. I mean, I love Asian culture. Taiwan's a great place. A lot of interest in jazz in Taiwan. They got a Taichung Jazz Festival there. Number of jazz clubs in Taipei.
Mm.
Yeah, United States, kind of dark here these days. Taiwan, very upbeat place, very prosperous, hardworking country, very nice people. I want to go to Japan. Have you been to Japan?
I haven't, but I'd like to.
Yeah, that's on the top of my list. My daughter's been there.
Yeah.
I want to go to Japan. My 3 places I want to go are Japan, Brazil, and Greece.
Yeah.
So I'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was talking with Rufus Reed. He said that he saw so much jazz in Japan, he probably wouldn't be a player if he hadn't been stationed in Japan and able to see all that over there.
Yeah. Well, years ago, decades ago, Japan was a place where musicians would go to work. I mean, there was a lot of work there. But not surprisingly, now there are a lot of Japanese jazz musicians. 40 years ago, there were hardly any. Jazz is the kind of thing where it attracts people from all over the world and they want to play. So you find jazz in every country because people are attracted to the music. They want to be part of it. So that means less work for traveling jazz musicians, but so be it.
Yeah. Well, so aside from the project on, you have a couple of projects that are not jazz. What are on the horizon? What are the projects on the horizon for you coming the next 5 years?
I don't know. I don't really like to talk about the projects until they actually happen. Like I'm working on a documentary right now about anti-Semitism that I've been working on for 4 months. I'm about to do a crowdfunding campaign for that. That's very tangible. I have a couple other things I want to do, but until they actually become a reality, it's just an idea. And I have no shortage of ideas. And certainly, although I'm going to be 70 in a couple of days, no decrease in my energy or my enthusiasm. Jazz is really, really important to me. It has been since I was a kid. I mean, it's one of the only things that I can count on in this world. And it's exciting to see, to be part of. I would like to do more jazz work. I'm not sure what that might be at this point. But so I just want to stay healthy. That's the first thing. And I'm just going to keep creating. We'll see what happens.
Well, Bret, thanks so much for doing this. And, people check him out. Jazz Video Guy. He's doing a lot of stuff. Getting the views up there. Continuing the message of jazz. So hopefully we'll see you moving back to New York at some point.
I don't know. I'd like to, but the cost of living is kind of high there. And also my body has adjusted to warmer weather. I'm not sure how I'd make out in the cold.
Yeah, we do have that. I mean, that's too with global warming. It's getting warmer.
I have to visit New York in the winter for a week or so and see how I deal with it. But there's no place like New York. I mean, it's a different New York than it was 10 or 20 years ago, but still the music is fantastic there, the food, the culture, a magic place. And we'll see. One day at a time for me. I don't want to focus too much on the future. As Ram Dass said, be here now. I'm doing everything I can to make today as good as possible.
Well, Bret, thank you. And, guys, check him out. Subscribe to his YouTube. And, show the first jazz guy on YouTube.
Thank you. And thanks to you for what you're doing and your work. You've done some interviews with some people who are no longer with us. So it's important that you keep doing what you do and keep playing the bass.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd like to try to transcribe some of the interviews into a book because not everybody watches video, but we'll keep trying,
Do you know about rev.com?
No.
They do transcriptions.
Oh yeah, get somebody to do it. That would be much easier than.
Yeah, it doesn't cost that much. It's like $1 a minute or something like that. Just rev.com.
Cool. I'll check it out.
That can help you.
All right, Bret. Well, hopefully you have like some big birthday party coming.
Yep, coming up.
Okay, Bret. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Jonah. Stay healthy. Be well.
You too.